give a crap. Flip it like this, or flip it like that. End of the world and we don't give a crap. All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Tonight, we are going to talk about the explosions on the Ukraine border. We're also going to be talking about the nonstop solar storms that experts say are heading our way. We'll be right back right after this. Don't miss a second. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Flip it like this, and flip it like that. End of the world, and we don't give a crap. Flip it like this, and flip it like that. End of the world, and we don't give a crap. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Tonight we have a packed show, and if you're new here or someone just shared our show with you, remember you can always go over to marfooglenews.com and follow along. We make sure that if we show you a picture, a tweet, a video, a picture, a duck picture, that's what I was going to say, it is all going to be over on the website, marfooglenews.com. Now, of course, also over there, you're going to find all of the information for the web-only content. That is the stuff that is too hot for TV. If you see, it is all organized by thumbnail. You'll just want to look for Nonstop Storm Everything Update, because we're going to go over absolutely everything today. Once you hit the yellow bar, you are going to hit the web only. That is stuff that is too hot for TV, or essentially it's too far to one direction that we can't cover it without, not staying neutral. Again, we try to stay as neutral as we possibly can because we welcome everyone here, and we want to make sure that everyone feels comfortable here. So again, over on the right side, if you do want to support us, you can by any of our affiliates, or you can support via PayPal. Again, that helps us keep everything running. So thank you, everybody that has done so and will do so in the future. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing tonight?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So, a lot to go over. We'll get right into it. Unexplained injuries, similar to previous Havana syndrome cases, afflicted U.S. officials on White House grounds. See, previously this was always somewhere else or, in another country, but now apparently it's been happening at the White House, which I'm not surprised by. I'm surprised this hasn't happened earlier just because of, how much has been going on. It says high-ranking Homeland Security officials in the T-Man administration say that they were overcome with feelings of vertigo, confusion, and memory loss while on White House grounds and in their Washington, D.C. area homes. The incidents and symptoms they describe are similar to the Havana syndrome. That has been reported by American diplomats in foreign countries since 2016, which we actually covered when the first story came out in Cuba, or Havana, where this mystery illness struck people, and they were feeling dizzy and having ear pain and having headaches and nausea, and all of these things happen. But the thing that bothered them, and the thing that really got them to say, hey, this is something not normal, is that many people were feeling it at the exact same time. It would even hit and it would go away. There would be, 5 people in a room, and all 5 of them would start feeling it, and it was all of a sudden. It was like something hit them like a rock. And it was only when multiple people that were having this effect done to them, they were in a line. This is what someone in our Foogle fam that was in military told me that they were stationed in Florida, and these people came back and talked to them and said that they were standing or sitting on one side of a table like a conference room, and all 5 of them got hit like it was in a line. So maybe all 5 of those people weren't the targets, maybe one of them was, but it went through all of them. So that says to me that this is something that possibly goes through them. They've talked about directed energy. They've talked about even electromagnetic. These are the kind of the theories that have gone on. It says the officials spoke to 60 Minutes for a new report aimed for Sunday. Other stories, of course, of officials being stricken were collaborated by former National Security Advisor John Bolton, and who fears there is a threat to the highest levels of the U.S. government. So this is something possibly they have it all the way turned down. Think about this. If somebody could stand outside of, or maybe they'll claim this, stand outside the White House and do something to somebody inside, and they won't know who it is, it's invisible, and it just sweeps through. What if they turn this thing through and just wipe out people left to right in the White House? That would be extremely dangerous, as you probably guess. And this could be done, possibly, if they have the technology for it, from blocks away or from out on the sidewalk. This also may be something that they could use and say, hey, we need to further the distance people can get to the White House, or put up some sort of crazy walls like they did recently for the construction. Who knows? Or maybe that's why they put up those walls, and then they sat back there and just did some fake jackhammering. Who knows? What do you think? Tell me in the comments below. It says, if we were at war and an adversary could disable the president and his top advisors or commanders in the field, it could render us extraordinarily vulnerable. So is that a setup? And by the way, there's a few jokes you could tell just from this one. Again, having all of the main people, part of the T-Man administration, saying that they had headaches and they were stressed out and whatever else. So, and then on top of that, being able to take out our leader. I don't think personally, I don't think they would, take out somebody they put there, but that's just my opinion. And then, of course, U.S. concerned about Zelensky's trip to Munich. The B administration is concerned about Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky's plans to leave his country this weekend to attend the Munich Security Conference, where he's scheduled to meet in person with Vice President Kamala Harris and, of course, according to 4 people familiar with the matter. Administration officials are worried that it's too risky right now for Zelensky to leave the country, given the potential for conflict, and that Russian President Vladimir Putin could somehow exploit his absence, they said. Amid those concerns, and on the eve of Zelensky's scheduled departure from Germany, a spokesman said that the Ukrainian president was monitoring the situation and a final decision would be made in the coming hours. So, anytime now. Dex, is this kind of weird that it's almost like they're setting up something here? Why would Zelensky leave?
It does. It seems, I was like, why would he leave? I get it. Like, oh, there's a meeting. We're going to have a meeting and try and, resolve peace. But at the same time, when the enemy is standing at your doorstep and at least what's being said, even from his own country and his own people, is that, they're on the verge of coming in. Why would you walk away? Why would you leave the helm? It seems like, you stay with the ship and lead. You don't walk away. Now, I know it's probably a short trip and maybe he's thinking he's in and out, but maybe he'll hopefully produce peace by going there. But yeah, it's definitely, I'd see the concern.
Well, and, or is it something like the old Afghanistan leader who left with truckfuls of money? Do you think Vladimir is going to hop in a few helicopters and a few SUVs chocked full of American cash?
He certainly could actually think that, hey, if he does roll in this weekend, it's going to be over quickly, and my head's not going to be on a swivel anymore. It's going to be on something different. So maybe I should go to Germany for a meeting and see what happens.
Yeah, Pike, right? Not fun if you were in that position, and knowing that they don't have the defense to, and if nobody helps them, or if they have minimal, even if they have what they have publicly announced they have, if I was the president of Ukraine right now, honestly, who knows? They might be like, oh yeah, you're good. We're all going to meet at 5 and go have beers at Zelensky's seniors, but I don't know. I would be pretty nervous about being there because it's not like they've got the U.S. Army behind them. If they did, then it would be a different story. But if they don't, Russia could just roll in there and take his head off. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. EMP, the White House, duh. This wouldn't be EMP, though. This would be something different. Well, yeah, and I'm pretty sure that the White House has some sort of EMP protection. Remember when Ukraine Prez had Brandon and son? Hey, what's up, Yabba Dabba? Hey, people were checking on you the other day. People were like, where the heck's Yabba Dabba? Gary Baker, apparently more truckers on the way to Ottawa. And then we've got Princess Peach Fuzz. The church is in this chat. What is going on? The Squish world is such a stream time. It's sad. And then put on the full armor of God. And then Margie O, what's going on? Laser. No, well, I don't know if you're talking about the previous story, but I don't believe it. I don't think it could be a laser, but it could be a directed energy, like microwave laser of some sort. I don't know if that exists, but. And the sun has been erupting nonstop this month with huge flares on the way. It says the sun has been pretty busy for the past few weeks. It says on Tuesday, our star fired off 2 enormous explosions from its far side in what has already been a heavy month of solar activity. CMEs are giant eruptions that send plasma hurtling through the space, and the sun has undergone several of them throughout the month. It says that if they hit Earth, the plumes of material can trigger geomagnetic storms that can knock out satellites and disrupt power grids. Fortunately, this week's CME was fired from the side of the sun that faces away from our planet, so it poses no threat, says astronomer Dr. Tony Phillips. Now, just to put into perspective, this kind of image of the sun composite, the N on this, in fact, if you just take one of the little arms off of the MFN, just half of that N and about a quarter of just that mark, that's how big the Earth is compared to one of these solar flares. That's what they say, at least, right? So these are massive. If something like this, what's pictured, actually was a direct shot towards Earth, it would not be good. Here's the thing. A lot of people in our audience and all over the world now are starting to look into the sun being the potential cause for almost all of the disasters that have happened on Earth. Some have provided evidence that the sun has actually been part of extinction events. It's been part of many world catastrophes, from major insane weather and possibly ice ages and all sorts of things. So there's Ice Age Farmer, there's Suspicious Observers, there's quite a bit of different creators that have put together a lot of stuff on that and spend most of their time on it. I would say I keep my mind open until everything happens. I mean, honestly, we cover everything and there is so much confusing information. That's why we try to pull out the patterns. If we can find the patterns, then we can tell what's most likely going to happen next. And I think we have a pretty good grasp. I know that we're not 100% because no one can be. The people that comment and think that they've got it all figured out, there's no way. I mean, there is absolutely no way any regular human being is going to figure out what this dark cabal is doing. I mean, it's just insane. It's so backwards in so many different turns and twists, and and half of the stuff that I think is going on right now, I think that it's just so absurd that people would never believe it's true. I mean, half of the stuff that's happened, I knew was going to happen because there was a pattern there, and it's like, how is this even possible? So another thing, Dex, is we've been looking at this, and under the newer kind of adopted 22-year cycle, supposedly the 2023 through 25 may be a very disastrous time. They're even saying it, out in the open, that we may have disastrous storms.
Well, yeah, and just like, in this article, they're talking about how the sun has been busy for the past few weeks. I mean, we've reported a few storms this year so far, and maybe more than that, actually, because we don't report them all. But, the fact that we're in, I guess, what some people would call heading into or in the middle of a solar minimum, where it's, you would have thought it's reduced activity. We're seeing increased activity, which kind of goes back to the notion that you're saying is, this other cycle that has to be studied that isn't the 11-year, but it's the 22-year. And based on that, we actually may be getting ready to see a tremendous amount. And the thing is, like, it does sort of take a bullseye for it to really, hit the earth, but it's not that uncommon. And it's a pretty big, projectile, if you want to think of it that way, because the sun is massive. So it does have to be pointed in the right direction. But like you said, those flares are so large compared to the size of the earth. It doesn't have to be that far off to still have an impact, right?
No, if what they say is true, then we would be screwed if we had a direct hit. Even now, they during the T-Man administration, they put in executive orders to harden our grid, which should have been done years and years ago. They've known about electromagnetic pulses. They've known about CMEs for a very long time. What I didn't understand is that they've done all of this. They've made societies and civilizations in the worst areas that are earthquake prone, that have tornadoes, that have hurricanes. They've done all these things, and they know certain things that we've known even before we had electricity. And they don't do things with that in mind, especially here in the United States. And I can't speak for the rest of the world, but I can speak for at least a couple of them. It's like, don't fix it until it's broken. Right now, we would lose so many innocent lives if we had a power grid down scenario. And this is something that could be stopped. This is literally something that they could try to not ever happen in the first place. I know that during the T-Man administration, they took steps to actually do that, at least for the government, military, and some of the upper level infrastructure. So why haven't we all? You probably heard me say that I thought that it should almost be a requirement that if you're selling a home, just like it should be, or even renting a home, especially if you're renting a home, that it should be up to code. Like you have, a handle on the side of the stairs, that you have, if it needs to have wheelchair accessibility, that it has a ramp. As far as why don't buildings have this as code? Like, you have to have it protected against surges and EMPs. The technology is out there right now to be able to do it. I mean, look at what Emp Shield is doing. So I don't get why this is even an issue anymore. Especially if they spent the money that they just blew on this all these $1 trillion deals that they just did. It's like, why would they not put a couple $2 billion to fix all of this in one go? I don't get it. It says, if this region remains huge as it rotates to the Earth-facing side of the sun, it could give us some exciting flares. Now, it sounds like that's a scientist like, yay, but an exciting flare is not a good thing if it's facing Earth. Not for the regular people, not for anybody, really. It's been a busy month of solar activity. The sun has erupted every day for the month of February. According to Dr. Phillips, some days have seen multiple solar flares. So look back to 2 years ago when everyone was talking about this new cycle, and everybody was making their predictions based on the 200, 300, 400 years of data that they had. And they're saying that this one could very likely equal a very horrible and unpredictable and super strong cycle. And then look at what is happening. Before, everybody was talking about the solar minimum. That cycle is over, and now we are in this, and now it's, think about that. The sun has erupted every day for the month of February. Luckily, it is not facing us, but how long will it be until it is? It says three of the ones that erupted, 3 of them have fallen into the second most powerful flare category, the M-class flares. January saw 5 M-class flares. One such flare led to a solar storm on January 29th that knocked 40 SpaceX satellites out of action. The rest of the flares in February have fallen into the milder C-class category. While it might sound frightening, it's all part of our sun's normal activity, so there's no need to panic just yet. Astronomers keep a close eye on the sun's activity to ensure that there's plenty of warning before any potential geomagnetic storm hits. Now, I like how they say there's plenty of warning. There's only a few minutes, at least for the first stage of it. And then at most, Dex, what do we have? Like a few days? Even if we had like the most warning, if we get an X-class horrible flare, just the worst one out there, it hits in like 8 minutes, the first part of it. And then the second part of it, the CME part, that's going to hit us in just a matter of days.
Yeah, that's correct. Like the first one is definitely immediate because it's more of like an X-ray or, it's super fast. But it's the coronal mass ejection, the second part of it, that it does more of the damage. And that does take a little bit of time. It takes a couple days.
Well, even if, look at the drills and the simulations they did for asteroids in New York. They were given a period of weeks, even months. They said that they could not evacuate New York, and how the simulation worked out, that it just went so horrible that it would take weeks to get people out. Now, if there was something like this and they needed to evacuate people before they lost all power, think about the hell that would be in any metropolis. This is why preppers and people that are like-minded, this is why we at least have this on our mind. CME, the Carrington level event, at least throughout history or what they've recorded, if it's true, is that every 150 years on average, we have a massive Carrington level event. A Carrington level event that happened back then when we had telegraph wires, made the telegraph wires explode. And that was before we had all of this super sensitive equipment. In fact, those were much hardier than what we have now. So if that happens, and then again, it's been 160 years since the Carrington level event. So if it's 150 on average, you can kind of do the math on that. Simply Pony says, notice me, senpai. What's going on? Hey, Simply Pony, nice to see you. Nelson Anseto, thank you so much from Canada. Thank you for the support, and I'm supporting you guys right back. Gabriel Alvarado, Edwin Wade, I appreciate that. Natalie D, thank you so much for popping in and supporting. Niall Adamson, thank you for your support tonight. Appreciate the super stickers, guys. And then Brandy Reger, and then Piloter Mike Skowicz, thank you so much for being the last one out on the last show. Over on D-Live, the D-Live crew is running hard. Thank you guys, everybody, for popping up. Over to you, Dex. You want to pop in?
Yeah, when you're done with this, I just want to come back to the solar storm. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go for it.
So one of the things I wanted to bring up is a lot of people don't necessarily understand how this really affects them in the sense of what the technological part of it is. It's not like some magic, voodoo is coming through and just wiping out anything that's electronic. The technical aspect of what's happening here is that the wires, anything that is, that can act as what you would think of like an antenna, is inducting. This is a term called induction, which it takes this energy that is coming from these ions and it inducts it into wire and turns it into a lot of power. And that's why when you talked about the Carrington event, a lot of fires were on the telegraph poles or on the telegraph machines because the wires that were out there were actually collecting this energy, and it was a huge surge, and it was causing things to catch on fire. Well, that can still happen because there's tons of wire out there, whether it's our power grid or it's even in your own home, you have a miniature power grid. You have wires running all through your walls, and in your car, you have wires running all through your car. All of those wires are basically giant inductors to grab that energy and turn it into something, where maybe a brand new iPhone is probably less of an inductor because it's been built with a lot of shielding around it, and it's got a lot of things to protect it from other types of radiation that would also protect it from something like this. And it's not necessarily as large as, say, 200 feet of wire running through your house, right? So just think about that when you think about how something like a CME works. It is really about the things that can generate what's called induction and bring that electricity in from the ions and charge it up. And then that electricity hurts everything that's plugged into it. Like your refrigerator just gets zapped because there's so much power surge coming in. Even if you weren't plugged into the grid, it could still happen in your house.
Now, North Texas gal says it can also affect our bodies too. Brings us to the next point. It says, harmful radiation from a flare cannot pass through Earth's atmosphere to physically affect humans on the ground. But there is proof that it actually does mess. I mean, we are electricity. Our brains, every synapse in our body is electric. So I highly doubt that if we got hit with an X-class, just major flare, that I would think that we would feel it in a ton of ways. It says, however, when intense enough, they can disturb atmosphere in the layer where GPS and communication signal travel. So North Texas guy, I agree with you. I don't think in recent times we've actually seen something so big hit us that I think it would affect us. Think about it. Think about this though. I know that they have that this isn't a fact. This isn't how it works. But you would almost think, because our hearts are run, to start us back up, they electrocute us, right? For our brains to send a synapse, it's all electrical. Our entire nervous system is electrical signals. And it's like, what if we had an X-class flare, or what if there was the ability to just shut us down? Like if we just all cease to be because it shut off our electricity. Now, I know that's not how it works, but gosh, you would almost think it would. It says, geomagnetic storms are caused by CMEs, which are huge expulsions of hot material called plasma from the sun's outer layer. They can lead to the appearance of colorful auroras by the energizing particles in our planet's atmosphere. Each solar storm is graded by severity on a scale from 1 to 5, with a G1 described as minor and a G5 as extreme, so almost like the tornado scale. There are, on the upper end of the scale, storms wreak havoc on our planet's magnetic field, which can disrupt power grids and communications networks. This is why we warn, even if we don't have an adversary hit us with the EMP or the sun, the sun can actually do this on a natural scale. So this is something that people should be looking at. Almost every elite out there is now, of course, now prepped up for pretty much anything, especially after 2019 and 2020. Almost all of them have done something or other to prepare themselves for this. So it's like, what are those people doing? It's kind of like keep up with the Joneses. And then we have the in Middle East said that readying for signaling of spectacularly bad deal next week. Dex, do you want to go in on this? This is about, of course, readying the world powers for this. And this is really confusing why he even did all of these different sanction changes. And it seems really fishy to me.
Yeah, it certainly does. And so just rewind. If you remember when we had the Joint Comprehensive Plan, or JCPA plan, that was put in place prior to the previous administration and the administration before then, which was the big deal that was done with the iCountry. Even then, the country wasn't happy with that because they felt like it really didn't solve the problem. It really didn't prevent the iCountry from producing nuclear capabilities, and obviously they continued to do it. I mean, if you remember back in the days when we used to send people in to look and see what they were doing, it's like, oh, well, this was hidden, or this was moved, or we don't know, and inspectors weren't allowed to see this at this time. They had to wait a few weeks, right? And so all of that shenanigans was going on. Plus, they were given tons of money, and all that money can be used to do what? Do more R&D, build more nuclear technology. So it seems like right now we're at a point, and I heard from France as well as our own administration is pushing really hard to the iCountry, saying, get this deal signed immediately so that we can, it's in your best interest to do that. But the country is obviously not really thrilled with this, and they're the ones that sort of pay the price because they're the first target, right? The iCountry and the country go back and forth, and while has nuclear capability, the iCountry doesn't, and they've always said as soon as they get it, they're gonna put a target right on top of their adversary there. So I can get why they're really concerned about this and why they pay a lot of attention to it. So this is a big deal. It is not being covered very well. It's not being talked about a lot because everybody's focused on what's happening in Europe, and then eventually probably in Taiwan. But we've always said there is this third location where we're going to see potential conflict, and it is going to continue to escalate over time. And this is one of those points of escalation.
Yeah. So the people that think that, nothing's ever going to happen it doesn't matter if Russia and Ukraine end up, high-fiving and playing some one-on-one basketball at each other's houses next week. There still will be countries that are so at each other's necks. I mean, India and China were at each other's necks. Now, China's writing op-eds saying that India is actually going to be a closer ally to them than they will to the U.S., and which is really weird because over the last few months, there's been a lot of weird stuff. Both India and China pulled off the Himalayan border. The Himalayan mountains were kind of a zigzaggy, constantly moving line. Their border has never been set. China says it has this part. India says it has its part. And they both have different lines that overlap. And they both say, hey, this is ours. And again, they've fought. They've actually fought. And they had the deadliest interaction of last year, about a year and a half ago, where 20 plus Indian soldiers perished by being thrown off a cliff. They were all unarmed. And then however many Chinese soldiers, they were both unarmed, and they were getting to the point where they were physically fighting and throwing each other off of the Himalayan mountains. That happened. But then after that, shortly after, India and China pulled out all their military gear from the Himalayan borders. They took all their gear back, and they're also part of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So India's, of course, financially working with China, which almost all these countries that say they're adversaries are. At the same time, it's called the Shanghai Five, which includes India, Russia, China. I want to say one of the stands, and I believe so they all work together. And now India joined Russian military drills. You're talking about India's 1.4 billion people, one of the biggest country by population in the world, and now they're possibly siding with China, the other biggest population country in the world, 1.4 billion. That's 2.8 billion people out of the 8 billion people on Earth. That's 1/3 of the population is possibly against the United States. And people can say, oh, India hates China. But I would say, look at what they've been doing lately. Their actions speak otherwise. There's really fishy stuff. It really looks like all of this, including Russia and Ukraine, there's a lot of stuff that feeds right back to China. It's almost like Russia's going to do all of this stuff, and Russia's becoming more confident because now China has its back. China now has the largest navy in the world, is about to have the largest air force, which now experts are confirming what we were saying 2 or 3 years ago. If you were here long enough, you know that before any official news came out that we were not the largest navy anymore, and that China was. If you remember, I said that's what our Foogle fam military members were saying 2 years before they ever came out with the official news of it. So right now they're saying that their Air Force is going to be bigger than ours in literally no time, like in a year. So there's no official news of that, but watch, it's going to happen. And we'll be able to say that, because of you, the audience, we were able to report that. I believe it too. They are building up, and all of this stuff with the Middle E, everybody, it's all tied into money, and who has been funneling all of the money back, who has been bankrolling all of this weird draconian measure stuff, who's been going into countries and fixing things for them, if you know what I mean, fixing things that they didn't want fixed. So a lot of it leads right back to China, and that's my opinion. But with a lot of stuff, a lot of evidence that I believe is right out in front of people's faces. All right, and then while we're on it, I highly recommend go over and check out Emp Shield. All of the things we've talked about over the few last years, the task force meetings, of course, the China task force, the FOBS test that just happened recently. I think it's a no-brainer to look into this and do your research on it, because Emp Shield is a company that not only was employed by the T-Man administration to help them, but it's worked with agencies like, of course, DOD, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, and now on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. If you want the same kind of protection, you can go through Emp Shield yourself. They are still selling to civilians. You can go over, and again, it will protect you against all 3 phases of an EMP. It will also protect you against a Carrington-level event like what we just talked about. The news of these solar events are becoming more and more, and experts are saying that it's only going to go up over the next couple of years. So it's a really good decision to get out in front of it instead of be behind it. Don't wait until it's broken to fix it. If you go over to marfooglenews.com, not only will you get $50 off per device, that will stack on any of the sales they do. This is supporting a real business that actually has families working for it. It's 100% American made, and it's a veteran-owned business. So make sure to go over and support, show your love. Again, marfooglenews.com/EMP will get you that automatic discount if you go through that link. That helps us. They send us a commission for sending you their way, and they give you a discount. So it doesn't cost you anything more. It actually costs you less, and you can actually thoroughly protect yourself. You can use these devices on your car, on your generator, of course, on your house, on your boats, on your RVs. Again, it's a great thing, and that's why I think everybody this should just be required for you to sell your home. You spend $200, $300, and put that in there. God knows how much money that people put into their houses before they sell them. You add this to every home in the United States and around the world, and we would not even have this issue. All right, and then again, over to Dex. I'm going to go over. So we had more. The PLA's KA chopper appears near Taiwan, indicates joint operation. Is this not exactly what I was saying? I mean,
yeah, it sounds like it's heating up again in the Taiwan airspace. So this is an anti-submarine helicopter, and it was spotted for the first time near Taiwan on Wednesday. And obviously, it seems like things are getting back. As I said, as soon as the Chinese New Year was over, we would probably see more activity, and it just finished 2 days ago on the 16th. And then as soon as the Olympics are over, which I think is the 22nd, I thought somebody said in chat on the other show, it's either the 20th or 22nd, somewhere in that time period, the Olympics will be over. And I think you'll see that China will get right back to where it started, or where it was before the Chinese New Year and before the Olympics started.
Well, what gets me is Jake Sullivan was very clear, and he had to say it. It's almost like he wanted to later say, hey, I told you guys so. He said that the conflict would not wait until the end of the Olympics. And his quote was, I want to make it crystal clear that our information is that this conflict will start before the Olympics ends and not after. And he made a really weird point of it. He kept talking about it. He said, a lot of people think that this is going to start after the Olympics and that they're going to wait for the end of the Olympics. I want to make it crystal clear that this will happen before the end of the Olympics, or on their information. So I'm like, why were they putting that in the back of everybody's heads? Like, why does it matter if it's a couple days later or before or after? Maybe because China's going to be involved? Like, I don't know. Why do you think that Jake Sullivan said that? And why do you think he just really pushed it hard that it was going to be before the Olympics ended? It's like a lot of the stuff they put in their speeches and the White House and the Pentagon, it's like, it seems like they're openly just trying to put a very blatant message in your head. So I don't know what to believe at this point. Teresa Huckabee says, when does it end? We believe the 20th or the 22nd. Again, we heard two different dates on that. So either way, in the next 4 days. So it might start off any day. We're watching. If you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe, because either one of us or one of the mods, we're constantly watching. So if something pops off at 2 a.m, one of us is going to get a call. So again, make sure to subscribe and push all notifications, because we will go live at 2 a.m. if that's when it goes off. All right, and then the Marine Corps is not moving fast enough to face China, General says. This is exactly what the military members in our group said, and that we only repeat things from the military groups if there's multiple telling us at the same time. So if just one guy that's former military says something, that's one thing. But if it's 5 or 6 people, some are active, some are retired, and they're all saying the same thing, that's when we communicate it to you. We have over 500 active and retired military here. So it's, again, a lot of you guys are why we called this stuff You guys watch this stuff, and we go over this stuff months before mainstream covers it. Anybody that's been here long enough, you can attest to that. It says that the Marine Corps is moving fast, but not fast enough to modernize for a potential future war against China. The new Deputy Commandant for Combat Development and Integration said on Wednesday. The Corps has taken the lead in the Department of Defense and its preparation for a conflict in the Pacific with its Force Design 2030 plan, released shortly after General David Berger took over as commandant of the Marine Corps in summer of 2019. It says, if anybody thinks we are moving fast enough, you're crazy, Lieutenant General Harston Heckel said Wednesday at the Marine Corps. It says, I would say we need to double down our efforts and figure out a way to move quicker. Dex, what crosses your mind when you hear these kind of ranks saying that we need to move faster? What do you think? Why do you think they're saying that?
Well, of course, there's multiple issues here, but the most obvious is that China is doing so much in spending and growing their military that it's becoming an obvious. We're in a position where we're no longer advantageously stronger than they are. If anything, we may be becoming closer to the same ranks, so to speak. But I think what we're really hearing is the sense of urgency around not only is this the fact that we need to have the strongest military in the world, or at least that's always been our position, but there's obviously this tension that's been building for many years in the South China Sea, and then with Taiwan and with other countries in Asia, that we, are actually putting ourselves in a position where we'll likely be facing them. And if we're facing up against China, and we're not well positioned, then that's going to be to a disadvantage to our military. And I think our military leaders are obviously standing up. They've been doing this. This is not the first time we've heard this. It's probably like the 15th or 20th time we've heard this from a military leader, right? Especially in the last year and a half. It's just like they keep saying it over and over again. We need this. Now, of course, they're also going to say this because they want more money spent on their own technology and building up our own capabilities as a military. But I think that's a given. We're always going to spend. We're always going to innovate. We're always going to invest in our military at some level or others, sometimes more, sometimes less. But I really think this goes hand in hand with the threat level that exists between us and China and the capabilities that China has built that most people, 5 years ago would have just brushed off and said, oh, it's just China. They don't have anything that works. Well, not true. They do.
Yeah, it's the same opinion they have of Russia. I think that it's people see these YouTube videos saying this is how it is in Russia, and it shows people, driving a tank down the street, and they think that all of Russia is like that. A lot of it's like that, but the military is now one of the most advanced militaries in the world. They are supposedly leading us in hypersonics. There's always the holdout that everybody has, that we have secret technology that is way 30 years ahead. We just haven't told anybody about it. And I guarantee we do, and I'm sure all three of these major superpowers do. India may have something that puts it all to shame. You never know. At the same time, it's really about, in which of these countries does the next, Albert Einstein or the next genius, the next Tesla get born, and, they're added to their research and development. The thing is, inventions that have happened throughout history have been people from all different cultures and all different countries. So, Germany could have somebody born tomorrow that makes the next super weapon that could destroy the world in one button. So at this point, though, China and Russia are formidable. And we've heard that from Space Force, Marine Corps, Air Force, Coast Guard commanders. I mean, we're talking about every branch we have physically covered, and NORAD, CENTCOM, NORCOM. You're talking about everyone we've heard from, and these are all the highest ranking people have said China's beating us. China's more advanced. China's got AI and technology that puts us to shame. Why? Unless before they did all of this and before they put all the money in this, they set it up pre-hand and they infiltrated years ago. Like this was a long-term plan, and this is just a theory. What if they infiltrated during, 5 presidents back, and ever since they've been working on this long-term plan? People are afraid to say that we were infiltrated, and possibly some of the government may be another country. That's not crazy to think, right?
And Adam, the other thing that comes to my mind when I think about this is just the amount of spending, right? And when you look at a country like Russia, its GDP is so small. It's like 1.4. I had it here a minute ago. It's 1.4 trillion. Okay, and the GDP of America is 20.9 trillion, and China's 14.7 trillion. So you know that both those two countries have the money to invest. Obviously, we invest a lot in military equipment, and obviously China has spent a ton of money. But how does a little country, and I call them little, even though they're big on the world front, but how does a little country like Russia with a small GDP, they must be spending an enormous amount of their wealth in their military as a comparison to some of these other countries like ourselves and China, right? And just to put that in perspective, I know I said this about a European country before, but the GDP of the state of New York, just one state, is 1.8 trillion. It's more than the entire country of Russia. That's just one state. Florida's only slightly behind it. So think about that, like how much money they must be spending of what they produce just for military.
Well, that's because that is, and the people they're living, they may be living in squalor in most places. And I say squalor, but, there's a lot of places where the people are not, it's not like it is here. That, yes, people can compare, but their military, they're taking all of that money and they're focusing it in one place because they believe it will pay out later. Now, Dex, can you grab that GDP piece that we showed the other day that shows Russia with the surrounding countries and how big it would be as far as GDP? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I've got that one from, I think it was Europe. It was comparing it to European countries. It was Belgium, Luxembourg, and Netherlands combined. It
should be archived on our site.
Yeah, I'll find it.
Because that would be that's an interesting thing to show people, to kind of put it into perspective. It is pretty incredible. China, though, on the other hand, everyone, all of the world's. And the craziest, scariest thing, if people haven't seen this, go over. Oh, Dax, I hate to do this to you. Could you look for one more thing? The amount of people that have done business with the U.S. compared to China from 2020 to from 2000 to 2020. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the trade. I think it was the trade.
Yes, does greater trade
comparison
with U.S. compared to China, and it was. I don't know if we could get that little video, but it plays. It plays from 2000 to 2020. It's shocking. It is shocking. It will show you why China is now calling shots in a lot of areas. And then Russia is to stage a massive nuclear drill amid the Ukraine standoff. So meanwhile, they are preparing their people and preparing their military for a nuclear drill. Now, most people say if they do go, in fact, even the president said today, I don't think they'll do nuclear, but I do think that they're going to do the stuff, right? The one thing that's been pointed out many times recently is they have been drilling and doing all of these tests of these super tactical nukes. Somehow they've come up with these tactical nukes that have a very low yield, large explosion, but they're very centered and targeted. One of our military experts says that they actually don't know how some of the missiles they've observed have actually been in such a tight area, and they're not getting readings from local places, like places nearby. Normally, if anything nuke goes off, it eventually goes up in the air, and they can detect at least anything that would blow up a city block would be detected once it gets up in the wind. But apparently they've been doing it, and they didn't even know that they were doing it. So between that and then China has similar capability with their tactical nukes. So we're not talking about a nuke that would wipe out a whole city like you see on Terminator. You're talking about a tactical nuke that could knock out, like, say, 4 skyscrapers, and then that's it, and keep it right there. Imagine how much damage that could do if it was done in the right place. So there's a lot to talk about there. Piloter Maiska Weeks, thank you. Ariel the Wrestling Mermaid, hey, I'm praying for you. And Mike, I'm hoping that you guys are working out your stuff. If not, though, I'm praying for you to get better. Vibron, thank you so much for your support from Australia. Love that we have such a broad range of people watching our show. It's actually stupendous that we have people from all over the world. Kenny Steerle, thank you. Sturley, I think that is. Sturley, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate that. Again, thank you everybody over on DLive that has shown support. Stormblade X69 says, notice me, Senpai. Is for mods. And then Earth Observer Dex is the man. Yes, he is. And then Release the Quacken, Chicky R, Peekaboo, sending love from northeastern Maryland. Thank you, and hey, welcome back, Chicky R. It's nice to have you. You've been here a long time, too. King5583, really, and then Running Fast, thanks for joining us. Pepperoni Nips and Running Fast, thanks for joining the channel. Welcome to the DLive fam. And it says the ministry said that it planned maneuvers some time ago to check the readiness of Russia's military command and personnel, as well as the reliability of its nuclear and conventional weapons. The war games follow U.S. President JB's warning on Thursday that Russia could invade Ukraine within days. It says Western fears focus on an estimated 150,000 Russian troops, including about 60% of Russia's overall ground forces, concentrated near the Ukraine's border. The Kremlin insists it has no plans to invade, but Moscow has demanded that the U.S. and its allies keep Ukraine and other ex-Soviet nations out of NATO, not deploy weapons in Ukraine, and pull back NATO forces from Eastern Europe. Washington and its allies bluntly rejected the Russian demands, and Moscow threatened to take unspecified military technical measures. I hope that, they put technical, like tactic, I don't know, measures if the West continues to stonewall. One thing I think about, and this is just a side thought, what if they are telling the truth? We have no intentions of invading NATO or invading Ukraine. What if their actual intentions are to invade other places? So what if they're technically telling the truth, because they're not going to invade the Ukraine. They're going to take over the whole world, right? And China is going to join them, and they're actually planning a world takeover. I get, one of those very clever lies that it's like, well, technically we're not taking over Ukraine. We're technically taking over the whole world. I know that that's a stretch, but again, look at if it lines up with China and Russia all at the same time. If they were going to try something much bigger, it would explain why non-NATO countries, like I believe, what was it, Sweden? I want to say Sweden sent their soldiers to the border. They think that it's going to be much bigger. Am I misquoting? Dex, do you remember what country sent it to the Gotsmilk Island? And I think I just said Gotsmilk Island.
Yeah, I believe it is Sweden. Yeah, I'm looking on the map. That's about right.
But it's not Gotsmilk. That's a commercial.
It is Gotland.
With milk mustaches. Gotland.
It's Gotland.
Yeah. Gotsmilk. Yeah. Clever commercial, but nothing to do with world politics. Russia holds massive drills of its strategic nuclear forces on an annual basis, but the maneuvers planned for Saturday pointedly involve the Black Sea Fleet. The fleet is based on the Crimean Peninsula, which Russia annexed from Ukraine in 2014. So this time they actually have this in coordination with their entire naval exercise. It's going on in 3 different areas, and if you've seen the map, it looks like almost, in fact, the way that the red is painted, it almost looks like a nuke sign. It looks like that as far as where they are centered around Ukraine. So if they're doing their normal drills, but it's also to coincide with their fleets in the Black Sea and the Mediterranean, it's pretty extreme there. Machina Opus.
And it's pretty important, too, because it says Putin is actually going to personally oversee it.
So, I mean, is he going to sit at the bow of a ship and like wave them through like charge?
Yeah, I don't know where his position will be, but
he'll be shirtless on a horse like in Patriot. Or what movie was that where he paints his face half and half?
Braveheart.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I bet you we could find a picture of Putin painted like Braveheart without a shirt on a white horse.
He has to ride a small horse because he's not a very tall person. Otherwise, he doesn't look right.
Does he really? I could see that.
That's what I would think. I mean, he's a pretty short guy, right?
But it's not like one of those, the small
no,
horses.
It's not like a little pony.
A small people horse. I can't.
Yeah, he's. We can't say that, can we?
Yeah, you can. You can say small people horse.
Oh, okay. Small people horse.
You can't say the other one.
Gotcha. Well, he's not riding a little pony. Let's put it that way.
Just that did remind me, though, we will cover it in a future episode. Disney is thinking about recasting Snow White and the Seven Dwarves with 7 normal-sized people because they are not going to put dwarfs. They don't want to specifically typecast 7 dwarves in a movie that's a live-action film made for dwarves or little people. And the little people community is pissed off because one guy, the guy from Game of Thrones, the smaller guy, I forget his name, the actor that was the dwarf brother of the queen's son or whatever, he said, we shouldn't be typecast into this kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. Well, the whole little people community is pissed off. They're like, okay, first of all, for actors, that's a dream gig, working for Disney in a huge budget film, and it's a role that's literally made for us, and you're about to say, we're going to give it to normal people. Like, the wokeism right now is just, it's, whoosh, don't understand it.
That's Peter Dinklage.
Yes, and the guy's a insane actor in Game of Thrones, but turns out he's just one of these woke people. Everything is woke. And even though, here's the thing, the actual small people community, it's like 99% of them are saying, hey, no, you're actually cutting out jobs. You're taking away jobs from us instead of helping us. We don't mind. We want to be a dwarf. We are dwarves. We've accepted we are dwarves. That's who we are. It's not a big deal. Anyways, in Ukraine's volatile east, a day of shelling, outages, and fear. Shells struck by the hundreds along the tense front lines in eastern Ukraine. Drones monitoring a fragile ceasefire lost their way when the GPS signal they rely on was jammed. And then the cell phone network went dark. In a sliver of land where pro-Russian separatists have battled for years against Ukrainian government forces, a group of international monitors tasked with keeping the peace reported more than 500 explosions in the 24 hours ending Thursday midday, around 4 times as many as an average day over the past month. As the world warily watches Russian troops massing near Ukraine's borders for signs that they're preparing to invade, Western officials have warned that the spark could become the volatile East. Repeatedly in recent weeks, the U.S. has said the simmering conflict there could provide cover or an excuse for Russia to roll across the border. So they're saying that the stuff that's been going on for years and years, they take one video of the stuff that's already been going on, and they can say, hey, they took all these people out, or they did this to a special group or to this kindergarten or whatever, and we'll roll in. But it almost seems to me like some of these events, it seems to me like they're trying to push Russia into a war. Like they're saying, hey, we're not going to give up. We're going to keep telling the world you're going to war with us until you go to war with us. It's weird. And then they had that agreement. People saw mainstream coverage of when they said that they would not use nukes in a first strike capacity, and they all agreed. And people were like, oh, okay, cool. That means they're not going to go to war, right? No, that's just saying that none of them will do the first strike in nuclear terms. But is that also them agreeing like, hey, we're going to go to war, but we're going to try not to use nukes? What do you think, Dex?
And is that first strike in nukes, or is that the first strike of nukes? Right. In other words, like we won't use a nuke as the first weapon, but we may use it as the second.
Yeah, no, I mean it seemed like they were all agreeing to not be the first one, so they wouldn't surprise each other with nukes, right? They have enough of this other crazy technology, drones, robots, whatever else, that they can, do whatever. China also took. This is how close Russia and China are. Russia gave China all of these Russian fighter jets, and China turned these fighter jets that used to have pilots into actual drones. So you've got a few years ago, it would have been one of Russia's best jets. Now they're kind of garbage to them, so they gave them, and then they turned them into basically kamikaze super jets. I mean, the fact they're not the craziest, they're not an F-35C, but they also don't have a pilot. So, worst comes to worst, these things are going to be fearless, will go into anywhere and go there at Mach speeds. So not fun. And they apparently...
It only takes one, right?
Exactly.
If 200 are coming and you take out 199, it only takes one.
Exactly. And that's the other thing. If China does quantity over quality, I keep saying you never underestimate your enemy. And if they have... I mean, we're not even talking about regular drones here. We're talking about jet drones. Say if 100 of those are coming in, the one that has the missile on it, you're taking all these things out. If one makes it, if they all have missiles on them, it's a scary thought. And there's no loss of life if you take them out of the sky. So there's no loss to them other than the money. And basically they said that they spent next to nothing on these jets because they were old technology compared to what they did. And then to turn them into drones, much cheaper than losing a human being. All right, and then before we talk about the pro-Moscow rebels starting to evacuate civilians, I just want to remind everybody, if there's of course, one of the big things for me is I hope that all of you guys are looking into this. Once I went to a solar generator, I can't believe I didn't do it earlier. I've gone through actually a few of the gas-powered generators. I always ended up spending a little bit less than I should have on the gas-powered generators. I had a couple break down on me. Most recently, I didn't have one for a couple years, and then I finally got one, and it was a crap one. Now that I have this, the Energy Flex 1500, and again, many people that have had any kind of solar generator will know why these are so amazing. I don't think I could ever go back. So a solar generator is really powerful and really an awesome tool because they are silent. All of our show, including my router, is on this one Energy Flex 1500. We have two power bars, and then, of course, all my music gear, my 2 computers, everything is on that. So if we do lose power, we still keep the show going. Now, if you haven't seen what these can do, Energy is one of the most sought after because it is modular. People, of course, talk about, the Tesla walls and things like that, the $10,000 Tesla wall. With this, you can actually kind of pick your size, pick how many batteries you want. If you want the base model with 1 battery, you can do so. If you want 2 batteries or 3 batteries or 4 batteries, you can do that. In fact, they're made so they can just stack right on top of each other. Not only that, they are portable, they are smaller, they are silent, so nobody who's desperate after an SHTF event will be able to hear you. That is why it is so important to look into these. They don't take gas, they take sun. So as long as you have sun, you have power. People say, well, as long as you have gas, you have power. Well, guess what? Gas and fossil fuels in the future are very questionable, but even if after an SHTF event happens, you have seen what they have done just during, say, the pipeline hack. When that happened, people were selling a 2-gallon jug for $50, and one lady was selling it for $150 because nobody could get gas in the East Coast when they hacked that pipeline. So again, it might be a lot harder unless you've got 2 barrels sitting in there, in your yard of gas. Then you might want to look into something like this. And the coolest part is you can take solar panels. You can get solar panels wherever you want. You can get their proprietary solar panels, which are recommended, or you can go and you can get them on Amazon and use them with it. All you need is that little adapter. And again, there's mods to this. There's accessories as far as stoves and different things, low voltage things that can run for much longer than a traditional hardware on this. And there's just so many things you can do with this. There's even plug-in extendable lighting. I ended up getting the extendable and chainable lights, and they're amazingly bright. So again, all things that you can plug and play. Marfooglenews.com/energy with an I, INERGY. That is, again, code Marfoogle. Make sure to go over there. That way we will get credit for it, and you will be protecting yourself against an outage. These things are absolutely amazing. You can charge them from your wall. You can plug it in, or you can do solar, or you can do both. Again, that is one of the strongest points here, is that you can have that just sitting and waiting and ready to go. All right, and then Dex. Let's see here. The pro-Moscow rebels, so they are evacuating civilians. That's what it sounds like.
Well, that's what they've been saying. And of course, this is, the other side of Ukraine, right? That's, like you said, pro-Russia, right? So they're making these statements saying, hey, we're going to evacuate, and they're getting buses in and trying to get people out. So this is such a tricky situation over there, especially since it's over there and it's not like right here. Like, we would know everything that's going on, or we would know more of what's going on in our own neighborhood. We don't live there. So it's really difficult for Americans to really understand what actually is happening. We got webcams, we got news that's blocked that won't be allowed over there. We've got, of course, mainstream that's going to, give us their narrative. So it's kind of difficult to get the actual information. That's why we report so many different angles of this. But yeah, I did hear those sirens that you've highlighted. Those, I heard that on a video. I saw that myself, but this is part of the narrative that's going out, is they were trying to evacuate people from the regions there.
And one thing, it says that Russian claims that Kiev is about to attack. Isn't that? We don't know which way this is going. This is like a telenovela. Either way, whatever is going down, something massive is in the plans. There is one thing that I think about, is how much a huge, gigantic conflict and stealing or grabbing or land grabs or whatever is about to happen, or power shift or whatever is about to happen, how much that would fix the last 2 years of absolute scandal. Think about that. Diane Moses, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Lisa R. Hall, thank you so much for being here tonight. If you guys have not said something nice to Lisa R. Hall, make sure to do so. Her and JStone78 have been rocking it. Jammer, Gem, Chance Paladin, everybody that's rocking the mod squad over on DLive, thank you, everybody. Bones, Rip Curl, thank you. If you guys haven't checked out Bones' channel, Jason's channel, of course, Rip Curl, Riptide, great guys and great gals. So, obviously, multiple angles here. Shelling intensifies in eastern Ukraine amid concern Russia is creating a pretext for an invasion. I'm not going to go too far, but of course, two sides right here. It says Ukrainian forces and the pro-Russian separatists, they're fighting in the country's east, reported a second day of increased shelling on Friday. Ukraine's Donbass region, which has been simmered for almost 8 years, could be part of Russian efforts to create a pretext to move in. The reports come as America's defense chief said that the United States had seen no drawdown to the Russian forces massed around Ukraine's borders. The U.S. envoy to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, which was meeting in Germany on Friday, said that the Russian deployment around Ukraine's border had actually swelled to between 169,000 and 190,000. So, Dex, is this interesting? This is now another confirmation of the numbers going up. I said 200 to 300,000 the whole time because,
Yep.
And now they're finally getting up there. They're finally telling us.
And that was part of why this article is here, because I know part of this was repeated from earlier, but again, this is a new confirmation or another confirmation of yet a higher number of 190,000 troops. And, we just heard from our own administration, admit 150, which was up, I think you had
20,000.
said 20,000 more than what he had last said. And I think they came out and asked Saki about it, whether or not that was, an error or it was correct. And she said, no, that's correct. It's up to 150 now. So here we have 190. So these numbers, are obviously going in the wrong direction to support truly what these numbers are.
You were choppy there, but I think we got most of the message. Machina Opus, again, thank you. Diane Moses, again, thank you. It says, although Russia has announced it is moving its forces back to garrison, this is what they're saying, we have yet to see that. In fact, we see more forces moving into the region, and reports from locals there, Fugel fam members and extended Fugel family members. I got an email saying that they at least saw 20 more trains headed in. So and those people have been just directly on 2 days before the news, because they're talking about this stuff on their local, in their local papers and in their local news. A lot of this stuff is happening, and they actually have proof down there that we're not going to get, in fact, for 3-4 days. So I don't know. This is why I said make sure to stay tuned when this pops off. If it happens at 3:30 in the morning our time, 6:30 in the morning, doesn't matter. We'll be on it. Dex?
Hey, Adam, I didn't hear you. You cut out, so I'm sorry if I'm missing the question.
Russia captures secret U.S. military equipment.
Gotcha. So yeah, so we had talked earlier about the fact that Russia had allegedly chased off one of the U.S. Subs from the Kuril Islands, which, if I remember correctly, it's in the disputed area over near Japan, disputed between Japan and either China or Russia. I can't remember. But anyway, we were in that area, and allegedly we had one of our subs was chased off by a Russian warship. Now, there was a dispute on whether that really happened or didn't happen. But there's also been now an allegation that Russia picked up equipment that we left behind in that process. So, I don't know if we, if under duress we, fired off something or released something to sort of cause a diversion so that we could get our sub out of there, and whatever that something was, we left behind. That's what they're alleging. But then also the U.S. military or the U.S. officials have come out and said, no, that's not true. We don't agree with that. So we've got this, this finger pointing back and forth between Russia and the U.S. military as to whether or not they've actually captured some sort of secret equipment from our sub.
And what the reason I put this in here, and my friend Lloyd sent this to me, and I missed this. And there's a reason why I missed this, is because it was very low. I mean, this was very put in the back page stuff. I mean, this was almost hidden. I felt like this was just extremely down low. And of course, the U.S. is denying it. But do you see how we filter out news on our end? If it's something that we deny, you don't even really see it. But again, Russia on their end, TASS News Agency and all these others are saying they got some of our equipment. Russia has captured secret U.S. equipment from a Virginia-class nuclear submarine that was allegedly operating within the country's territorial waters, according to a report from Moscow-based news agency. So that's, we didn't even hear about this.
Well, and they're saying it's a sonar countermeasure device. And, so on one hand, I would think, if this is a countermeasure device and it's something we mean to put out there, sort of like an aircraft throwing off flares to try to, countermeasure an incoming heat-seeking missile or something, right? If we have a device like this, I would have thought that this would have been something that would have been designed to leave behind, and you aren't really worried about somebody picking it up, because you are using it as a countermeasure and you're using it to divert, and you're not necessarily expecting to go pick it back up. So I don't know how super secret this is, if it's really true or not. I guess we may never know, right? We'll just keep watching and see if anything does come out about this.
Yeah. And then how Putin will take Ukraine, MOD reveal Russia's battle plan. So we talked about this on our previous Marfoogle News video, and we talked about how there's more and more coming out still. I don't believe anything until it happens, and I'm pissed off too, as many of you probably are. The world is just, it feels like we're getting our chain yanked here with this whole invasion. But from what I have heard from actual military members, and from what I have heard from people in Ukraine and in Russia, we had somebody who works on a higher capacity as a janitor that cleans up after these people, the higher ranking people, and they said that very early on, before anybody knew, that people were telling U.S. citizens in Russia to leave. And in his case, he's married to somebody, and he has dual, some sort of, like, he's not to dual citizenship, but he was on his way or something. But they said to get back home, and he said, well, I am home. This is my home. And they said, you're not going to be welcome there very soon. Well, that was specific wording too. And there was a lot of that, and people knew at that time. It was about a day before that they talked about how Ukraine was telling. This was before the world. We were talking about this days before the world was too. Now it's all everywhere that Ukraine, every country was telling people in Ukraine, get out. And then a couple days later, it's like, the only reason why we're ahead of this stuff is because of our audience. I mean, we have a huge audience, 5,000 to 7,000 watching every single live show. They're all over the world, but 60,000 by the end of the next day. So 60,000 people around the world. It's like you're going to have people that know things. That's why we've been ahead, is because of you. The audience is really the reason why we're ahead. So we're not bragging. I guess we're bragging that we have the best audience ever. But I mean, that's why we've been ahead on this, and you guys have all seen it. If you've watched this show for 3 years, how many things have we called beforehand? And, the haters want to say, what have you called? What do you mean? We're talking about the things before it ends up in mainstream. We're talking about it when it's just a little side thought and something else is in mainstream. You can see the trend of what is going to be the world's focus. If you can foresee that a couple days early, then you know what's about to happen. Sometimes it's not always an emergency. Sometimes it's being ahead of the curve. So by the time people are covering things, you're like, yeah, we talked about that last Tuesday. I'm sure most of you, when you go to work and you talk to your coworkers and they're just now finding out about this stuff, you're like, yeah, I've been following this since the get-go. It's really incredible that all of this can kind of, we're seeing it play out. So what is going to happen next? What do you think? Somebody said, saw it on my Google feed yesterday. So we've been talking about it for, now 4 or 5 days, 6 days, 7 days before they even told people that. Yeah, in fact, we have it listed on our show a week and 9 days ago or something. And that's why we archive stuff too, so you can see that. And then it says that how Putin will take Ukraine, MOD reveals Moscow's battle plan as U.S. warns of moment of peril, but Russia denies it will launch a Fantastic Freddy. Chemical weapons before an invasion and insists their troops are retreating. So are they really retreating? And then the rest of the allies are setting up something to make them look like they did something, or make them look like they set up a Fantastic Freddy, so a double Fantastic Freddy. And if you're not getting my translation, make sure to ask somebody. But again, it's like, are we're actually going to attack, but then we set it up weeks ago, so if we did attack, we could go, oh, no. We told you 3 weeks ago that Russia was going to make it look like Ukraine attacked when it really was them dressed up as Ukrainians.
Adam, I just saw
insane.
a report, and I put it in with the other things you'd asked for in the screener. But this says that, all the evacuations that they were doing that they aren't going to allow men. They're being banned from leaving the territories controlled by LPR and DPR, which is the pro-Russian groups in the eastern section of Ukraine.
Okay, so we'll get into that in 1 second. I do thank you, Dex, for putting this in here. So this is what we were talking about earlier. This is the size is based on their GDP and kind of the size of things, right? Russian economy fitted into Western Europe. So if it was based on the GDP size, this is how big Russia would be, right? So it's pretty nominal when you look at it and you're like, gosh, that's incredible. And then,
or the state of New York, right?
Yeah.
Actually smaller than just the state of New York. The state of New York's 2 trillion. They're 1.4, right?
That's insanity. So basically, if New York took all of their money and just put it straight into military, it could be a fighting force like no other. Visualizing USA versus China trade war. This is shocking. This is why people need to be less focused on Russia. Russia is most likely trying to get a good seat at the table after China does all of its stuff. This is my theory, because look at this. This is shocking. And anyone new that has not seen this needs to share this with others. So biggest trading partner. This is going back to 2000. Well, actually, this one is 1980 to 2018. So let's, so it's about to start over. 1980, blue is the USA. How many people trade? And then the red is trading with China. 1994, 95, 96, 97. Notice how the blue is retreating and the red is multiplying. 2015, 2017, 2018. Okay, do you see something here? Here's 1980. The entire world is blue. And just to remind you, 1979 is when they let capitalism happen in their country. When they let all of their people, hey, start a company, do whatever, but you got to pay your taxes to the People's China's Republic. You still can't own anything, but you can make money and you can live lavishly. You can do all that. You can start companies, whether it's making shoes with kids, whatever. You can do it. Capitalism is okay for now. Which, by the way, they're just retreating on back now because I think they've made their billions and trillions of dollars. Look at this absolute crime to humanity. How did any of our presidents let this happen? I'll tell you why. Because they don't care. As long as they're sitting on the top, on the same table, the world leaders are way above our president. They're going to be sitting king of their zone, right? They're promised a territory in the future of this wokeism where they're going to have mega cities and all of the rest of the property will be free range land for the rich. They'll own, a whole city size area to themselves. Meanwhile, everybody else will be packed into mega cities. This should shock the out of you. 1980, 1913, 14, 15, boom, 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 boom. That is horrible. How did that happen? All right, and then this last piece that Dex added in. So check this out. I mean, this should be a pretty good sign of something, I would assume. Hold on. Look at this. So, I mean, what does that tell you, Dex? Like they need those men for war?
Yeah, I would think it's a form of draft, right? So when they were running those buses earlier, they were putting up these signs and they were not allowing men. to leave into Russia.
That's a trip. Soak that in. And then, so we have some tweets here. And again, remember, if you're new here, all of the tweets, all of the pictures, the videos, what we just showed you here will all be on the website. We added that during the show. That will be on the website by the end of the show. Make sure to go check it out. We're about to show you some slight videos here. I do want to make sure I didn't miss. Randy Graves, I am sorry I missed you. Thank you so much for your support. And SP, thank you so much for your support. Earthworm Jim, thank you, says, love you. Love you, Marf. You're an amazing human. Hey, thanks, Earthworm Jim. It's been a long, I think it's been a pretty long while since you've stopped by, so thank you. Rebhild, thank you so much for your support with the super sticker. Simply Pony says, Comet with the tail flew across the sky and my coast springs bright white. Any else see it? Simply Pony, was this just now? Hopefully it was a comment. Diane Moses, thank you again. I appreciate many supports. Woman of Wonder, thank you for the updates. Happy Friday, y'all. Nice to see you again, Woman of Wonder. Ariel, the Wrestling Mermaid. Jennifer Aldrich, thank you. Thanks for keeping us informed. Thank you, Jennifer, for stopping by. The Okie Carpenter, thank you. Massive thank you to you. Thank you for the support. Sega, Sage of the Fire says the Boomer video is indeed a Russian dialect. So that video, a lot of people were confused on. I did forget to show it on the last news video, but that is definitely a real video. The only thing that people were debating is where it was taken. Sounds like they were speaking Russian, which is not good. If we see another Carrington level event and it fries, we'll say just 50% of electronics, service, communication. What happens to crypto then? Prepped Net says. Dex, do you want to answer that? I know that.
Yeah, technically it doesn't go anywhere. It's still there. It's not like it magically disappears. Eventually servers come back online. Eventually power comes back up, and the distributed technology of crypto just means those ledgers will eventually come back and consolidate or come online across the multiple servers that are hosting that information about the ledger, right? And it will come back. It's, you can actually store crypto in a paper wallet so there's ways to do things offline. The stuff still exists. The only way it wouldn't is if everything was completely wiped out physically and could never come back online ever again. As long as it can come back online, then it still exists.
I was trying to audibly roll my eyes because me and Dex are totally opposite on this. I think that if everything fries, that crypto's done. But Dex knows more about it. He knows the science of it. I know that all the crypto people too, get pissed off. They're because crypto is like a culture now. It really is. It's the one thing I think is really cool about crypto is it is seeming like it's going to be the future, and the people are very pumped about it. They're very positive about it. They all pump each other up. So I think it's all good as far as the culture of it. But I think logical. I think that what if it doesn't come back on though? That's the thing. Right.
Well, I hear you, Adam. And the more logical way to look at this is, let's say everything does go offline. Let's say all electronics around the whole globe are gone. There is no longer an internet. There is no longer any type of communication and technology at all. Okay, well, I think there's bigger problems than where's my crypto, right? And at the same time, I don't think you're going to be worried about the greenbacks that are stuffed in your wallet either, because they're probably not going to work as well as trading physical assets and physical objects that you may have or services. So at the end of the day, if that's a reality, all of it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, and that's why people say to diversify, have some gold and silver, but also have actual supplies, have food, have items. Salt may become trading, something that's more valuable than gold. Salt is something that's required for us to live. If truly you don't think about it, but salt is in a lot of stuff that is just out there, and it's used in a lot of the stuff that's made. If we didn't have that, it's kind of one of the blocks of things that we need. salt, things like that. Water will be a tradable thing if anything, if something like that goes down, or clean potable water. All right, and then so to show you some of this stuff that has gone on, there are videos surfacing and it just keeps coming out. And what's crazy to me, Dex, is this kind of looks like a different angle. Doesn't the sky kind of look the same to the previous video that came out a couple days ago?
Yeah, in the sense that it's lit up. I think, I'd want to be cautious and not say that they're in any way, shape, form the same. And I don't think that's what you're saying. But yeah, this is definitely has a pulsation to it. And that's probably, the fire raging and the low level of clouds or something that's reflecting all that light. Versus that video we saw yesterday, which, we don't know if it's true. We don't know where it came from. If it came from the, an ME country with the letter S that's used to be in the news all the time, or if it came from somewhere in, the remote areas of Siberia or Russia, right? It could be tested things that were going off. We don't know. And we don't even know if it's now or in the past, but
hold on. So
that video is really specific, right?
So this is on
pretty clear what that was.
This is on TikTok, and I am because people didn't get it. So we showed these 3 pictures, and I don't know, maybe people were responding to the other stuff. These were wallpapers from Tesla, right? This people said was a wallpaper, and I don't know if people were getting confused on something. Even if this was a wallpaper before it was at this convention, because just to show you, this was an explosion, right? This background, this was bigger than a car. This was a gigantic display. This wallpaper, say if it was just hypothetically a wallpaper, here's the original picture. So you see that there's a huge display at a convention, and this backdrop is like 20 feet big. It's huge. It's gigantic. And of course, as you look behind, there's this Earth. There's no way that literal rocket scientists, or maybe it was a marketing company that was working for the Chinese government, there was no way that they accidentally chose this. Now, somebody said that this read something about a nuke thing, and they didn't bother changing or taking away the writing or something. I don't know about that. Believe this said something. I heard many different answers to what this meant. If somebody can read that that dialect, I don't know which one it is. I'm not going to try to judge on what it is, if it's Mandarin or Chinese or whatever. But either way, that was a big printout. There's no way that was an accident. Even if this was a wallpaper, why would they choose that? It's not like they missed it. And then if you line up the planet, somebody said, well, it doesn't line up. I did it myself and this and that. This is a piece of art. So it's not going to line up exactly to Google Earth, but when you take it, Dex, how close would you say it was to being in the Ukraine area?
It was, like a 2-second exercise to get it, to sort of adjust it and say, okay, where does Ukraine fall when you're moving the globe around and sort of lining it up like that. And obviously that's an artist rendition, so it's not exact, but it was, might as well have been in the same ballpark, right? And that's not to say that, there aren't other countries that are nearby. Maybe it was Belarus, maybe it was, Russia, but on the map, it's pretty much right where Ukraine is. Yeah,
you look at where they plopped it. So yeah, maybe it not be exactly lined up, but that's an art. That's a piece of art.
Yeah, and someone said, hey, that's part of the pole, the white pole that's sticking up in chat. But no, it's not. If you look at that, you'll see that it is on the map in the background. It's not from the pole.
Yeah, no, anybody that looks at the original picture, which is and it's still there on the original article, the Chinese lunar rover named Jade Rabbit. This is the South Morning China Post, which is their official government-approved mouthpiece that was put there. As far as the closer you get, you can visually tell that this is part of the actual picture, not that pole. So, again, it is not something that you can actually, you can clearly see that. All right, so let's see here. And then we have another tweet. Let's go to this. Oh, and then I do want to play that. Hold on.
Yeah, the TikTok video that
Yes,
people were,
because
yeah.
people thought that it was something else, right?
Well, and while you play that, one thing I want people to think about is see how light it is in the picture, in the frame of this person who's driving a vehicle, and then how dark it goes after. And think about how hard it might be to replicate that in CGI. Sure, professionals can do it with lots of money, right, and lots of time. This is not a TikToker's easy video.
No, it is not. And in fact, if you know anything about CGI and even the most updated algorithm-driven CGI, to do this kind of lighting and effect, and I mean, I personally, I know it's real. I just don't know where it's from, or if it's from a test facility, if it's a Russian test facility. Again, so let's see. I think I muted my own site, didn't I?
Взрыв.
And you can, if
Взрыв.
that looks like a tactical nuke or a FOAB or a MOAB, because it doesn't have the full-on like mushroom cloud. It has a more of a big boom, right? But people are saying that that was Ukraine and that something just popped off. We don't know that. But that is the video, and people were saying that this was from GTA 5. That was not from GTA 5. That's clearly, if you go and watch the original, do not judge it off of me playing it on there or me showing you a screenshot of a moving video. If you've ever taken a video with your cell phone and then taken a still shot from that, you're not going to get the quality of the original video. And even that original video, you would need to see yourself on a screen and look at it. Once you watch that video, I think maybe somebody was saying that this was a screenshot from, it's really, because a couple of people said, oh, that's from GTA 5. That doesn't look like something that would be on GTA 5, and neither does that video below. So I'm very confused, because a couple of people said that, and I'm like, what is from GTA 5? I played GTA 5 a lot. But when you see this one picture here, I mean, it's freaky.
Keep in mind, it's two, right? Because there's one you can see in the very beginning that had already exploded. And you're seeing the cloud of it because there's so much light to see it. And then, of course, it fades out.
It's just, it's, that even kind of gives its credence. And then, you know what's even crazier? If you go through frame by frame, it looks like there's air raid sirens in that, in the actual frame here. I think that looks kind of, or a cell tower. But it looks like there's that actual air raid sirens. So if this was something else, then let us know and show us with proof what it is. We will correct it. Proctor Kidwell, and by the way, we don't know what it is, but we know that something is popping off, and we don't know when things are going to go down. But all of us preppers and prepper-minded people are hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. Proctor Kidwell, thank you so much. Huge support, Proctor. That you didn't have to do that. Thank you so much. Salute. Thank you to Proctor. RE55 says, thanks Adam and Dex for all your work, and thanks for all the mods. Much love, Foogle fam. Thank you guys. Thank you everybody that supports. Okay, and then just a reminder, if you want to get yourself prepped up and prepared, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. Any of our affiliates like this, we pick for a reason. We think that it will either save a life, make a life better, or protect a life. Again, make sure to go over here and check it out. You can get long-term survival food. They actually sell, if you've wondered where to get actual food that will store for years and years, this is where to go. You need to go check out the Essentials of Life, which essentially is everything from food to gadgets to iodine pills to emergency radios to water purification systems. Again, 90% of us would perish in an EMP event with a full grid down, only because we would not have drinkable, potable water. Not because we would take each other out and all this chaos and all that. It would be because the water within days would the whole system would fall apart. So again, you can go to marfooglenews.com/prep, and right now there is still a discount, $50 off on a 1-month supply of food, and then again $150 off on a 3-month supply of food. The discounts have not been sticking around that long, so make sure to go and act. This is again, they have kept their prices at the same price. They have not raised their price. I don't know if they'll be able to do that forever with 7.5% inflation and all the stuff that's going on right now. So make sure to go over and do it while you can. It's only going to get more expensive over time. So marfooglenews.com/prep. Again, that helps us out and it helps you out. And it's just a fun site because you can go through all of the different gadgets. There's power and lighting. There's all sorts of awesome things. If you are a prep-minded individual that likes the gadgets, head over there. All right, and then there is another explosion. Russia's Interfax news agency reports second explosion. So within a few hours, there was 2 explosions, and one of them they said was a gas station, and the other they said was possibly the oil pipeline to Europe from Russia. So something is happening right now, and it would make sense that it may be very soon that it happens. So if it doesn't, thank God and amen. But all of these sources are over on our website. You can grab these videos and inspect them for yourself if you don't believe them. That's why we make them available. And thank you, Bayberry's Antique Dolls. Thank you for the support over on PayPal. Lori S., Peter S., Julia Z., Deidre R., and then looks like a few people went over there just recently. Erica F., Mark and Laura. Thank you again from Hawaii. Able-bodied Dawn B., Kenny Cams, Terry D., and Karen W. Thank you guys. Craig Alicious, appreciate you guys. And then Gone Girl 777, thank you for your massive support. Appreciate you, and I hope you're doing well wherever you are. Dex, do you want to talk about, of course, what's the more extreme end of things?
Absolutely. So if you're on YouTube, open the description, click on show notes, first link right there. Otherwise, just go to marfooglenews.com and click on the thumbnail for the show. Scroll down to that big yellow bar that says web-only content. That's sort of the demarcation point of where things start to change a little bit. And we get into content that's a little too hot for TV, maybe very opinionated, too political, too far to one side, but it's the rest of the story and everything else you might want to know that's going on. So lots happening there. That forbidden topic that has been going on between the former administration and what he thought or what the investigators were doing to try to figure out the spying that may or may not have been going on. That's all over the place right now, at least in the fringe parts or the edge parts of the media. Lots of other topics going on. Saget is in the news again, or at least information about what he had said before. Parachutes in Canada. I'll just leave it at that. You can read and find out what that means. But go take a look. There's plenty of other information, including things from Bernie. marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show, scroll down to that web-only content, and you'll find the rest of the story. And again, on YouTube, open the description. All the links for anything you need on YouTube, they're right there in the description. Easy to get to.
And this wasn't as serious. This could have been in the main show, but this is pretty hilarious. Reuters ended its live broadcast of the view of Kiev's Maidan Square amid the Russia-Ukraine crisis after a drone appeared with a garage for sale sign, and the phone number actually matched the Russian embassy.
Isn't that funny? So, I added that a few minutes ago. I didn't know if you'd see it, if you'd be able to refresh.
That is so hilarious.
That's
Look
hilarious.
At this. Watch this. Hold on. Yeah. So that is freaking hilarious. Garage for sale. That is funny. That's a good way. They trolled I've never seen people troll. I've never seen somebody photobomb a webcam. That is smart. Okay, that is smart. If you know where these, oh my gosh, if you know where these city cams are, think about that.
Yeah, but they really don't have that much traffic, right? In a normal day, but in this case, it really does, because like every media outlet, including myself, I mean, I've been watching these webcams. I'll turn them on from time to time to see is anything happening there, right?
Yeah, is there any shells in the sky?
Yeah, so like in this case, Reuters and others, they're all like focused in on these webcams to see if, lights start flashing off in the background, right? But that's obviously a lot of eyeballs are on those cams right now.
Well, I mean, think about this though. I mean, there's ones at the Space Needle. There's ones whatever. I didn't even think about it, but there's ones at the colleges. There's one they're mostly used for weather, or the local news stations for their, when they talk about the weather, they'll show a webcam of your local, one of the high points in the city. And I was just thinking, man, I flew by the Space Needle many times, and they always have webcams shown by everybody. If you had a sign up there that said something funny, that is a huge troll. That's pretty funny. Earth Observer Mike and Marshall, hey, what's going on? And then Groovy Grandma, thanks so much, Marfy and Dex. Well, thank you, Groovy Grandma. It's always a pleasure to have you. Granite Pie, Sailor Swarm, End Times, nice to see you. Man, I really I regret not seeing you guys when you were all up here. So you guys, I'm sure, had fun. Chaw Money is such a funny guy, such a positive character. All right, Dex. Well, thank you for your service tonight. I appreciate you and everything that you do.
Much love. Great show, brother. Make
sure to say hello to our mods and thank them for their service. They're keeping it a positive place down there. They again make it. They are part of the Foogle fam. They are part of. They enforce some of the simple rules, which is to be polite to others, and to push each other up, and never talk badly about other creators. So thank you everybody for following kind of some basic rules. Again, thank you everybody. Make sure to go check out their channels. Most all of them have a budding YouTube channel as well, and we want to push them up as well and help them. Thank you everybody that supported us, whether it be a super chat or whether it be over on PayPal. We appreciate you guys. Essentially the stuff that we've been covering lately has just been hit now, and it's just getting absurd. So thank you everybody that supports us, supports our families. God bless you and have a great night. Thank you for supporting independent. And it's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. We don't like that. End of the world and we don't give a crap. Flip it like this and flip it like that. End of the world and we don't give a crap. Flip it like this and flip it like that. End of the world and we don't give a crap. Flip it like this and flip it like that. End of the world and we don't give a crap. Charlie Abercrombie in the Miss Tennessee, and the city got less with a good less B. Hey, everybody got a PC and a Chef Lee with a 2 double E's. Hey, now with the deep state of mind, everybody does that, but nobody does fine. Ha, now with the Lyndon Ernst, or maybe it was Landon Ernst. When my wife is so robot chicken, bring it right back now the heat gone clicking. Never go ticking like a piece of chicken. Back to the prank calls and kicking. Jam all one with the KCOC. Bring it right back with the wish you call me. Flip it like that, flip it like that, flip it like that, flip it like that.